So here we will take problem from orthonormal basis and its construction, how to construct it, and also further application of this one to inner product. Till now, I haven't discussed in detail how to construct inner product orthonormal basis in general. I will discuss next week onward, or probably in incoming classes. So here till now what we have seen that either either we are having orthonormal basis, or by some heat and trial method we come to know orthonormal basis of a given set. When I am saying orthonormal normal basis, that means I am not talking about a standard basis in general. A standard basis, we know that that one is a orthonormal basis, so we won't talk about. So whenever I am giving a word orthonormal, recall that it generally it happens to be non-standard kind of basis. So that perspective. So I will talk about the outline of my today's tutorial. You can say that I will talk about orthogonal basis and its application with inner product and orthogonal projection. So what we do, we can always find orthogonal projection with the help of orthonormal basis easily. So what before going to find orthogonal projection, we need to come with one orthonormal basis of the specified subspace or linear space. Anyhow, right now just you can say that just come with heat and trial method. And later one algorithmic approach is Gram-Schmidt orthogonalization process. And then I will talk about construction process of the orthonormal basis in lower dimensional. In lower dimensional, through orthogonal projection, you can easily construct, but in higher dimension, it would be difficult to visualize. To go for a systematic algorithmic approach. So before going to that orthonormal basis and its application to orthogonal projection, I will talk about inner product a little bit. So if I'm giving a question, find the angle between these two vectors. How you can find? Anyone? Would you like to answer? How can you find angle between these two? What is the angle between these two vectors? Here, don't try to draw picture. So try to. It is a linear algebra. So try to calculate angle between vector x and vector y algebraically. When you are saying algebraically, that means you apply inner product. So inner product is one approach. You algebraically you can calculate angle between two vectors. So what is the angle between these two vectors? These two are four-dimensional vector. Anyone? Would you like to answer? Would you like to answer, anyone? What is the angle between these two? No answer. Okay. It is very simple. First find inner product between these two. What is the inner product between these two? What we do? So these are here. If no basis is mentioned, I had already mentioned that your basis is by default it would be a standard basis. So here you are trying to find inner product of the given vector with respect to a standard basis. So what is happening with respect to a standard basis? How we define inner product? We just do multiplication component y and sum it up. That means 1 time 1 equal to 1 plus 0 time 1 equal to 0 plus 0 time 1, others are 0, other component are giving 0 here in. So okay, so what is the inner product between x and y? 1. Now next, what is the inner product between x and x itself? That means you are trying to find the length of x. So what is inner product of x with itself? It would be 1 time 1 1. Nice. And what is the inner product of y with itself? Okay, fine. So you got the inner product. So there is already a relation between inner product and norm or length of the vector. You might have already seen that. Otherwise, I will discuss in detail. So if you say that inner product like this way, and if you decompose, if you are willing to write this one as a projection x transpose x, then what is the name of this one? It will come as uh, x1 square plus x2 square plus, if you simplify this inner product of x with itself, that means x1 times x1 plus x2 times x2 plus x3 times x3 plus x4 times x4. It is 4-dimensional. And what does it give? What is this one? This quantity? This quantity we are talking about, if suppose we are in 4-dimensional space, so this and this point is your x having coordinate, first coordinate x1, second coordinate is x2, and third coordinate is x4, fourth coordinate is x, third coordinate is x3, fourth coordinate is x4. So if you are having this way, then this is your point of reference, call it origin, and then the distance of this point or length of this point with respect to origin, we can describe several ways. So what is this one? From the Pythagoras theorem, you might be already aware of that it is talking about a square of distance between reference point and x. So we can denote it. It was what? It was length of a square of length of x with respect to origin. So what kind of length it was? It was a Euclidean length. So Euclidean length we denote it by 2 norm. So it is a square of norm. So simply from here, so with the help of inner product, how you find length of a vector? So length of a vector in term of inner product is what? It is a square root of inner product with itself. So length of a vector, how you can find in Euclidean space? Generally we find a square root of inner product. So it will say that what is the length of y? Now next try to answer. What is the length of y? Length of y is 2. A square root of inner product of this y with itself, that one is coming 4. So that's why length of y is 2, and similarly it will imply that length of x is what? 1. Now come to dot product definition from your high school. What you have already studied there. Dot product, it says that it is talking dot product between any two vector. It is saying that what is this one? It is saying that length of this dot product is equal to length of x into length of y into cosine of the angle between those two vectors. Suppose if this vector x is here and this one is y, both are in 4D. So definitely there is angle between these two. That angle we are calling it theta. So inner product we represent it length of x into length of y into cosine of theta. So from here what you will get? What is your cos theta? So this equation it will derive that you will get cos theta equal to what? It is very much mm, interesting when you are having bulk data and you want to find a cosine similarity. That you need to find dot product. So cosine similarity, one kind of it is talking about correlation between two data set. So here one data is this one, another data is this one. One data point is this, another data point is this. Then how can you see the correlation between these two? Easily just find the angle between two. So cos theta would be ratio of inner product of x with y divided by length of x and into length of y. So we have already calculated everything of right hand side. So what are those? So that means it is saying that if you here inner product of x with y is 1, length of x is 1, and length of y is 2, 1 times 2. So cosine of theta is equal to 1 by 2. Simply what does it imply? Which value of theta cos is taking 1 by 2? What? 60. That means pi by 3. Yeah, pi by 3. Always actually when you are in linear algebra, so we are generally not dealing with degree. So better you can talk in radian. Radian is a better approach. So there are two, you need to measure angle. One is radian, another one is degree. So radian, so pi by 3. Simply you can say that it is pi. Mostly linear algebra, you will observe that angle is pi by 3. So this is the approach to find angle between two vector with the help of inner product. So you have one more tool to find angle between two vectors. I am taking one practical example. So here we have to find correlation between people, that those people who are eating meat or some another kind of food, meat, and also develop cancer, some kind of cancer rate. So that means we try to find correlation between cancer rate and meat consumption. So what is the correlation between these two? So this correlation we can always find with the help of inner product. So that correlation, sometime it would be negative, sometime it would be positive. What is meaning of negative? Negative means our inner product was negative, and positive means our inner product was positive. So just find inner product. Through that you can say that how two vector are related, two data point are related to each other. So one here a sample I have taken it. So here so in the first column you observe country. So Japanese percentage, Japanese they are consuming meat 26, it might be some unity, there would be might some unity, and out of 1,000 you can say that 26 people are eating 1,000. Take 1,000 sample size, or what would be sample size, how you can get, what is the way to find a sample size? So sum it up. If you sum, then you will get size of sample. So you have taken sample, that means a few people from Japan, that means 26 people from Japan, 101 people from Finland, 124 people from Israel, and 205 people from Great Britain, and 284 people from United States. So these these are making a sample size, total number of sum of you take. So these people you have taken. So among this sample, in this sample we try to find what is the relation of mean meat consumption with cancer rate. So in Japan, cancer rate is 7.5, in Finland it is 9.5, and in Israel it is 16.4, and in Great Britain it is 23.3, and in United States 3 34. And we also get a representative element of meat consumption. So what is the representative element? Actually measure of central tendency, that central element represent, uh, it is representative of the data. So mean is one representative. That means you can say that most of data, this data meat consumption of this country will fall between around 148. You can see that. So that's why it is a mean. It is a mean is a representation of, you can say that with the help of mean you can represent all the data. You can, if you are having information about mean, then you can say that most of data either less than 148 or greater than 148. That means it is near about 148. So you at least uh, get a central idea regarding the distribution of data once you are having idea of mean. So that's why we have calculated mean, and this one is the mean of the cancer rate. Now tell me, what is the, whether these two are here positively correlated or negatively correlated. So what you, so to do that, what you will do, you will perform a cosine similarity. That means cosine similarity is nothing, just it is finding inner product. So find the inner product between these two. So what is the inner product between these two? That means if you find, so this call it vector x. So first column call it vector x, this one is vector x, this one is vector y. So tell me what would be inner product of these two, whether these two are positively correlated or negatively. What is your answer? Anyone, would you like to answer? Here you observe every entry of the first column is positive, and also similarly every entry of the second column is positive. So definitely dot product is what? It is a component sum of component wise multiplication. So always here in this case dot product would be greater than 0. So due to that also you will observe that cosine similarity is positive. Cosine similarity is positive. So from here if you directly take dot product between this first column vector with second column vector, then you will observe a positive correlation. But actually is it true correlation? May not be. So if you want to see true correlation, you deviate these data by the mean. So deviate by mean. So this is the mean deviation. Mean deviation or mean deviated data. That means you subtracted every data with mean. You subtracted 26 minus 148 is 1 sorry minus 122 101 minus 148 is what? Minus 47. So this mean deviation you observe that. Now if you try to calculate try to find dot product between these two. So can you say that is it negatively correlated positively? Because here directly negative and positive both kind of entry you observe here. So you have to find the dot product between this vector, call it x dash, this vector is x dash, this vector is y dash. So as a homework just try to find, and you can put your answer there in Google Classroom. Okay. My suggestion is that definitely it would be negatively correlated. And here, with respect to deviation from mean, so if you deviate from mean, your data has been changed. It is changed. So deviation, when you do deviation, just you perform a linear transformation. It is not more than that. That means you have changed the origin. So here, what is origin of the data? Origin is 0 0 for this data set. That means all these 2D point you can 2D data point you can call it. These are 2D data point. And here when you are coming to mean deviation, what is the origin? Origin has been shifted to 148. Origin is now at sitting at 148 and 18.2. So this is the origin for second mean deviation. So it will call it O dash. This one is O dash here, origin of the mean division. This one is O, origin of first table, origin in the case of first tabular data. Okay, so like just finding correlation, just you do find inner product. So that one is also measure one kind of correlation. And later we will see also in next semester there would be one course probability and random process. There you will come to know a lot about measuring correlation. That one is a Pearson coefficient, and many different kind of correlation coefficient are coming. Now I'm coming to another problem that we are finding orthogonal projection with respect to a subspace in Euclidean space Rn. So we will take any n-dimensional vector and we will project into a lower dimensional subspace. And how can we derive that with the help of orthogonal basis? So here I have given a step. So suppose we are having a subspace V, then V definitely it will have certain kind of non-ascending basis. Always try to find non-ascending basis. One. So anyhow try to observe non-ascending basis. Okay, and convert if you not non-standard basis into orthonormal basis by right now by hit and try. I won't ask my question would be not, here not based on generic algorithm. It would be based on hit and trial method. So through hit and trial method you can convert this non-standard basic basis into orthonormal basis by hit and trial right now. That means easy kind of thing is here. Easy picture is coming. So heat and trial through you can convert, or just by inspection. This thing we are saying that just by inspection. So I'm giving variety of problems. So what kind of problem you will see in coming midterm, another exam. So just by inspection, you will come across orthonormal basis. Because I haven't calculated, I haven't discussed detail about grammar with orthogonalization. That's why right now hit and trial method will work. So what is the first step? First step, we have to find a non-standard orthonormal basis of B. That one is this O, basis O, having each basis element unit vector and perpendicular to other. Perpendicular. So this one is orthonormal set of vectors. In a step 2, so this first step you can perform by hit and trial. Second step, here what you do, so you need to take any vector, you have already one vector x, project this vector over this plane, and then when you are projecting this vector over the plane, then the projected part of x, definitely it would be, it is in the plane v. So that's way that that projection of x in v, it would be a linear combination of basis element of v. That's why we are writing as a linear combination of basis element of v. Okay, now next task is apply inner product and get the coefficient, this coefficient. So how you will get? So alpha 1 you will get by taking dot product of x with u1, alpha 2 you will get by taking dot product of x with u2, and alpha, likewise alpha k you will get by taking dot product of x with uk. Here what is k? K is talking about dimension of this subspace b, and definitely k would be less than equal to n. A can't be greater than n. So less than equal to n. Okay. Now we will come to a step 4. Once we are having value of alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3, those coefficient we will substitute back here in this equation, and we will get a representation of projection of x in the plane as like this way. That means x dot product x with u1 times u1 plus dot product, this one is alpha 2 and like this one is alpha k. So you got the representation, job is done, because x would be given here, and by hit and trial method you come to know what is u1 and what is all other ui's, you come to know. So you have expressed this projection of this vector in term of as a linear combination of ui's. So that is the step. In the fourth step, you have to solve it. So I will take one example and apply the fourth step in order to get a solution. So do these stepping, and definitely you will get your solution. So here question is that we are taking a subspace of 4-dimensional Euclidean space R4, and this subspace is having one basis, this A, first, where first basis element is 1 1 1 1, and second basis element is 1 minus 1 minus 1 1. So tell me whether these two are orthonormal basis, whether these two are orthonormal vector. So we will, in order to do that, because we are having idea of inner product, so just do inner product. So what is the inner product of v1 with v2? So inner product to 1 times 1 minus 1 times minus 1, that means inner product definitely it is coming what, 2 minus 2, that means 0. So these two v1 and v2 are orthogonal, that means perpendicular to each other, but these two are not unit vector. So how can we get unit vector? So we will find the length of v1 and v2. What is the length of v1? Length of v1 is a square root of, because inner product of v1 with itself is 4, so take a square root of that, that will give length of v1. Length of v1 is 2, similarly length of v2 is also 2. So you calculated length of v1 and v2, and here your task is that you have to project this vector x having coordinate 1 3 1 7 in the plane, in the plane v spanned by these two vectors. So your first step would be that get orthonormal basis, but this one is not a orthonormal basis, this one is orthogonal basis but not a orthonormal basis. So how can you get orthonormal basis? So it is v1 v2 are perpendicular to each other, it is fine. Now we will normalize. So normalizing v1 by dividing norm of v1, then we will get u1. So u1 is now this vector 1 by 2 1 by 2 1 by 2, and u2 is similarly you will get from v2 by normalizing it, and this one is u2. You can observe that u1 and u2 are now orthonormal vectors. So we got the orthonormal basis of this subspace V. It's fine. Now first step is over. In second step, we will project the given vector x in the plane V, and when we are projecting in that process, the projected part of x on the V, it would be on the plane. So that's way the projected part of x in the plane V, it would be a linear combination of the basis element of V. That's why we are writing alpha 1 times u1 plus alpha 2 times u2. So here now our next job is we have to calculate alpha 1 and alpha 2. So here how we can calculate? By taking inner product of x with every basis element of orthonormal basis. So alpha 1 would be inner product of x with u1, and if you take inner product of this x with u1, and if you, so what would be, just simplify it, you will get 6. Similarly, take inner product of this x with u2, then you will get alpha 2. Alpha 2 is what coming? It is coming 2. Now in last step, in fourth step, you will express your projected part as a linear combination of u1 u2. This a specific linear combination. Here alpha 1 is equal to 6, alpha 2 equal to 2. So that means 6 times u1 uh, plus 2 times u2. It is giving projection of x on the B. So this one is the projection vector on the x or with respect to plane B. And so 6 times u1 is what? This one 1 by 2, 1 by 2, 1 by 2, and u2 is what? 1 by 2 minus 1 by 2, or minus 1 by 2, 1 by 2. So just do little bit calculation, and you will come across to know that this vector 4, 2, 2, 4, it is the projection of the given vector x in the plane V. So just with the help of orthonormal basis, we easily calculated this one. But if you don't have orthonormal basis, we have to solve system of linear equation. That one is a little bit complicated kind of things. So always here you got one alternative approach to find orthonormal projection is that whatever basis would be given here, always convert that. Those would be easy kind of things. Convert that easily to orthonormal basis, then apply all these four steps. Okay, so next kind of problem I will talk about construction of orthonormal vector in planes, or simply it is we are just starting construction of orthonormal basis. So it is a little this kind of construction we do in lower dimensional space. That's why geometry is very much clear, but in higher dimensional space geometry is not clear. So that's why these things are looks easy. So like how we can formulate? So we are taking a subspace V in R4, two-dimensional subspace V in R3, sorry, in R3, and definitely V is a two-dimensional subspace, so it will have a basis with two basis element. So this one V1 V2 is forming a basis of V1. Now we will, our target, we have to convert this one into orthonormal basis. How we can convert that? So with the idea of projection we can convert that, what we have already studied in last few slides. So first what we do, take v1 and normalize it. So this we are calling it normalizing. That means dividing v1 by its norm or length. Then it is a process of normalizing, and in that process we are getting a unit vector u1. U1 another name also you can say that u1 is the direction. So here we had v1 and v2. You can observe that definitely these two are not orthogonal. These two are any independent vectors in plane. So now first in first step we did normalization in the direction of v1 by dividing the norm of v1. So we got u1. Next step what we will do? So next is what we will find a vector in V which would be orthogonal to the unit vector what we constructed in step 1 u1. So we will find a vector which is perpendicular to u1. So how we can find? So in order to find that vector, we have to resolve second basis vector v2 into two component, that parallel component and perpendicular component. So we will that is this v2 perp. So we will see that this v2 perp here geometry you can see it here. v2 perp is perpendicular to u1 and hence v2 perp is perpendicular to u1. So here we have already constructed a vector which is v2 perp which is perpendicular to v1 and hence u1. Now, but this v2 perp is not a unit vector, so we have to we have already got a picture here. v2 perp is perpendicular to u1. In next step, what we will in next step we will normalize v2 perp by dividing the norm of v2 perp. So here we do here it was v2 perp, we divide it by norm of v2 perp, and in that process we are getting unit vector u2. That one is a perpendicular to u1 as well as unit vector. So we have already constructed uh, orthonormal basis of two-dimensional subspace uh, V. We have already constructed. So now we are having this u1 and u2. It is forming a orthonormal basis of V. And I will take you example here. Example is coming like this way. Same example. Uh, so what? So here you are having a vector space V, which is constructed by having two basis element V1 and V2, and clearly you can observe that V1 and V2 are not perpendicular to each other. So you can observe that V1 and V2 are not perpendicular to each other. That means with respect to these two as a basis element, what basis you will get, call it a. This basis a is not a orthonormal basis, it is a non-ascender basis. You can say that it is a non-ascender basis, but it is not orthonormal. So we have to construct orthonormal from this basis a. How we can construct? So first we will take u1 and we will divide it by its norm. So we are getting u1. You will take first we will take v1 and you will divide it by its norm of v1. So we are getting u1. So u1 you can observe that we have already got u1 which is unit vector. Next we will project v2 and v2 in the direction of u1 or v1, and we will take perpendicular v2 path. So this is the v2 path. So how v2 path is coming, it is defined like this way. I have already discussed several times that v2 path is nothing else, it is v2 minus inner product of v2 with u1 in the direction of u1. So projection we, because we have already come across to know that u1 is unit vector, so projection we are writing like this way. Projection of v2 with respect to u1 or v1 we are writing like this way. So just simplify this one. v2 is already given, it is vector 1991. Then what is the projection dot product of v2 with u1? It is very easy to calculate. So dot product of v2 with u1 is 10, and u1 is this vector. Simplify it, you are getting this one is your v2 path, minus 4 4 minus 4. Now next step, you will divide or you will normalize v2 path by dividing norm of v2 path. So norm of v2 path is kya, what? It is 8. So you will divide it by 8 and you are getting this u2. So and hence what you observe that in this process you have already got your standard a basis which is having behavior like a standard basis, this basis, and that this basis is a orthonormal basis. So you have already got the orthonormal basis of v. Okay. I had already given previously name a, so you can give name a, and last basis you can call it b. So what is happening now? Next we will find change of basis matrix. So this one is job. We have already constructed orthonormal basis. Now we are going further. What we observed, that we will represent all basis element with respect to new basis element. So all basis element. What was old basis? Uh, So it was V1. So we will find coordinate of V1 with respect to new ortho basis A, orthonormal basis A, that would be 2 0. Similarly, coordinate of V2 with respect to new standard basis, new basis orthonormal basis A, it would be 10 and 8. And taking this one as a first column, this one is a second column, we can express that this is the change of basis matrix from given non-standard basis. We had non-standard basis what? B was what? Having basis element V1 and V2, and after uh, applying the process of construction or orthogonal projection, we come across a new basis that we are calling it A, containing orthonormal vector u1 and u2. Now, in that process, we will here get a matrix R. This is nothing. It is talking about change of basis matrix from where to where? From B to A. Our old basis was B, new basis is orthogonal basis A. So this is the change of basis matrix. Now we can see further. Uh, we can see further what? So V1, we can observe that V1, we had already seen that coordinate of V1 with respect to new orthonormal basis was what? 2 0. That means it is talking, saying that 2 times u1 plus 0 times u2. 0 times u2. And similarly, coordinate of v2 is what? uh, with respect to new basis as orthonormal basis A was what? It is 10 and 8. So you mean it says that 10 times u1 plus 8 times u2. So suppose you consider this as a system of equation. So if you want to write these two in a systematic way, how you can write this one? So you are saying that V1, how you are getting? V1 you are getting as 2 times u1 plus 0 times u2. That means uh, simply you can say that u1, u2 take as column, and you are multiplying with 2 0. So this thing I have written like this way as a matrix notation. Matrix augmented matrix notation, you can in the matrix form notation I have written like this way. So your first column is coming with respect to u1 is making first column and u2 is making second column. So same, this one is column picture. So I am simply saying that this one is the column. You can say that column picture of coordinate of v1 with respect to basis A. Similarly, get column picture of v2 or coordinate of v2 with respect to orthogonal basis A. What would be column picture of v2? So you can say that v2 you are writing like this way: u1 as a first column, u2 as a second column. You multiply with two-dimensional vector 10, 8, 10 and 8. Okay. Now write further these two as a if you further you want to give a matrix representation, then it is coming like this way. So you are saying that you are first taking v1, okay, and second taking second you are taking V2. So with this, so here this matrix is common in both V1 and V2. So that matrix is what? Simply right now call it U1, U2. This matrix is U1, having first column U1 and second column U2. Now tell me what is the coefficient of U1 with respect to this matrix? Coefficient is 2, 0. So here, if you multiply 2, 0 with this matrix, you will get V1. Now, how you will get U2? If you multiply second coefficient, that call it 10, 8, second pair of coefficient 10, 8 with this matrix, then you will get V2. So just it is a compact way of representation, everything in together, and this compact representation, what does it becomes? So it becomes something like this. Here matrix M having first column V1 and second column V2 equal to this matrix Q having first column U1 and second column U2, and this matrix R having, it is change of basis matrix from A to B. So you can remember that what is this matrix, why notation is coming Q. It is a classical notation for being orthogonal matrix. Q is fixed notation for orthogonal matrix. So Q is orthogonal matrix. R is what? Upper triangle matrix. So R is also a fixed notation for upper triangle matrix, and that's way actually you had initially you can see that you had only this information. That means vector space subspace was given with respect to these two basis element. We constructed later these two with the help of construction process of uh, orthogonal basis, or with the help of orthogonal projection, we constructed u1 and u2. So it come later, and through all these vector column picture, vector picture or column picture, both are same. So through this column picture notation, we come across this notation, and it says that uh, while performing that orthogonal projection and converting the given basis into orthogonal basis, we did actually a factorization of the matrix into two important, very simple kind of matrix. So here one matrix is orthogonal matrix, another matrix is upper triangle matrix. So here looks very easy picture. This matrix M might be complicated, but if you come to know this matrix Q and this matrix R, then it looks very simple matrix. I had already discussed that if you multiply a matrix which is orthogonal with any vector, then it is, if you multiply orthogonal matrix with any vector, then what will happen? Magnitude will not change, length of the vector will not change, it will remain fixed. So if you find length of uh, q time x, then it would be same. The length is invariant. It is just changing the angle. It is not changing the length. It is also not doing any scaling. So that's way that orthogonal matrix is a very important. Uh, it brings invariant length, and a similar feature also in upper triangle also. If you are willing to find the multiplication of this, it would be again upper triangle matrix. One more property of uh, orthogonal matrix is that if you multiply orthogonal matrix with itself, what would be your matrix? Resultant would be identity matrix. So it says that inverse of a orthogonal matrix is the matrix, just transpose, just do transpose, and then you will get inverse of the matrix. So here finding inverse is also very easy in case of orthogonal matrix. So there are many benefits with orthogonal matrix, but if you, I'm asking, can't we do inverse process here? It is not possible to find inverse, but you can find pseudo inverse of this matrix M, then that task would be very complicated. But if you are having orthogonal matrix, then easily you can find inverse by doing transpose. So all these are, there are many benefits. Suppose you have this matrix might be a square matrix, and that time you can you need to find inverse. You can find inverse. So in that case, finding inverse is a very tough task. Taking how many computation and how many, so n cube computation of order n cube computation. But here transpose is very simple. It is just uh, you know that transpose is very just convert row into columns. So that is the process. Okay, other things we will discuss in next class, and just keep on solving all the problems. In next class onward, I will start Gram-Smith process in detail, and also we'll see a bigger picture of decomposition of matrix M into QR decomposition of bigger picture. Regarding attendance, I think I might have created, or so go and mark your attendance there.